coronavirus in our country. With the cooperation, compassion, generosity, and prayers of the American people, we can slow the spread, we can protect the most vulnerable, and we can heal our land. So let's do it, America.
Thank you, Mike, very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. So, just a couple of little things that will take some questions. Maybe you will have some, maybe you won't. That'll be a shock. You'll shock the American public. But I have to say on the testing, if this works out, and we think it might, the new test will be a very simple one, much easier than the existing test, which is quite complex and not a lot of fun to take. And this will be a game changer. But remember, we inherited a broken, obsolete system. It was good for a small number of people, but not good for the millions of people that we're talking about. And we've made this into a system that no matter where you go in the world, that's where they're going. That's what they want to do. That's how they're going to be doing it. Should something like this happen again? So our people have done a fantastic job, really a fantastic job. And I hope the new test works out. We'll know fairly soon, I think, Doctor. We're going to be knowing about that fairly soon. Hopefully it'll check out or test out. And we certainly are looking forward to that. That will be a very simple test by comparison. Won't be unpleasant at all. And one other thing, the ships. So we have the Mercy, and it's going to California, as you know. It's on the West Coast now. And you have a sister ship that's essentially a twin. They're incredible. I mean, they're incredible ships. I've seen it. I've seen one of them, and they are unbelievable what they can do and the capacity. Many operating rooms, they're wartime ships. They're meant for war. Many operating rooms, stainless steel. These rooms are as good as there is anywhere in the nation, actually. I spoke with Governor Cuomo. We had a great conversation today, a number of conversations, actually. He's working very hard. And we are going to be bringing that ship that's called the Comfort. So you have the Mercy and the Comfort. The Comfort's on the East Coast. And that ship will be coming over the next 3 or 4 weeks. It was in the middle of maintenance, and we are moving the maintenance very, very quickly, and we're also supplying the ship simultaneously. It's actually big supplies going into those ships, big. And that ship will be coming up here over the next few weeks, and we'll probably be putting it in New York Harbor. And we're making arrangements for that also as to where it's going to be docked. So you have the Mercy and you have the Comfort. They'll be coming up. The Mercy will start very, very quickly. It'll be arriving in Los Angeles pretty soon. So we look forward to that. A question? ABC.
Thank you. First of all, Senator Paul testing positive. When's the last time you had in-person contact with him?
Gee, I think it was quite a while ago.
But also,
it's been a long time.
On top of Senator Paul now, 4 senators are in isolation, and the rules say that in order to vote, they have to be there. Romney, Senator Lee, Senator Gardner, and Senator Rick Scott. Also, 2 of them were in contact with.
Rick is coming out.
With the critical stimulus package vote expected.
Romney's in isolation?
Yes.
Gee, that's too bad. Go ahead.
Did you have sarcasm there?
No.
Sir?
No.
Do you think that Congress should consider changing the rules to allow them to vote remotely if it comes to this critical stimulus?
I was thinking about it today, and I'm saying, you could have a lot of senators and a lot of House members. I spoke last night with a very, very good man who happens to be in the House, as you know, and he's just started, and he tested positive. So you could have a large number of people in there from Congress. You could have, between House and Senate, you could have a large number. And I think it's something, at least, I fully understand why you should be there. I think it may be a constitutional reason why you should, but we could be in a position where I would certainly be in favor of it, where they could vote from a certain outside location. I would be in favor of it. I was thinking about it today. We could be in this, look, with what's going on, nobody's ever seen anything like this. You could have a lot of people in there from Congress, and it would certainly be, they may tell me there's a reason constitutionally, and there may be, but I would be totally in favor of it on a temporary
It
basis.
does seem like negotiations still have a ways to go on the stimulus package. Are you concerned about the timing at all? And the
Well, we
message it
have
sends?
we have an interesting thing. You know, we all want to get to the same place, but we're different. We want to, and I just wrote this down just a little while ago. We want to protect the worker very much. So do they. So do the Democrats. We also want to protect the worker through their companies. We don't want to necessarily. We're going to help the worker anyway, but ideally they can go back to one of their great companies. You know, you have great companies that are in financial trouble now, and we need money to help those companies so they get back into where they should be, health. You know, most of these companies 4 weeks ago were having the best year they've ever had. Last year was the best year, almost all of them, other than Boeing, which is incredibly had problems, big percentage of GDP. But we have to be able to work with Boeing. Boeing was a great company and will be a great company again, I think, shortly. So we have to work with the companies, and they don't want to do that. It's crazy. They don't want to do that. I don't want stock buybacks, so I don't know where the problem is there, but I know that's one of the things that they're talking about. I do not want stock buybacks. I don't want to give a bailout to a company and then have somebody go out and use that money to buy back stock in the company and raise the price and then get a bonus, okay? So I may be Republican, but I don't like that. I want them to use the money for the workers. I want them to use the money for the company to help the company in the airline business to take care of their planes and all of the things they have to do, including buying new planes. But I don't want I don't want to have any stock buybacks. The Democrats are with me. I don't know what the problem is in that one because I can't imagine that is too tough. We want to be able to take care of our people. You're going to have things coming up. We're going to have some of the elements that they're talking about. They're down to, I mean, literally 95% of things that you would think that they wouldn't agree, and you'd think the Republicans wouldn't agree to it. And unemployment, as an example, is one of the things they talk about, and unemployment insurance. I think we're very close on that, but you know, right now they're not. So right now they're not there. But I think that the Democrats want to get there, and I can tell you for a fact the Republicans want to get there, and I don't think anybody actually has a choice. It's a bold package. It's a big package. We do have money for, one of the things is we do have money for saving small businesses. I don't imagine the Democrats, because we have a lot of money set aside for small businesses. We also have a lot of money set aside for big businesses. You know, the big, powerful companies that were powerful 4 weeks ago, and today they're overextended. Look at the cruise line. That's a tremendous business, a big business, very important to Florida. And it's unthinkable a month ago. Just unthinkable. They were setting all sorts of records. They're building new ships. We can't let the cruise lines go out of business. I mean, that would be massive numbers of jobs for our country, and actually for the world. But for our country, it's a massive business, and it doesn't take much to keep them going. So we have to provide for that. But I think both the Democrats and the Republicans are agreed that we have to take care of our workers, and we're going to be doing that in numerous ways, including a substantial cash payment. Yeah, please.
When it comes to the Defense Production Act, we know that governors across the country all day today were pleading with you to utilize the DPA, saying that they need it specifically for that allocation piece that you mentioned, Mr. Navarro.
Okay.
Why not use it now if that would answer their pleas for help?
Well, we are using it now. The fact that I signed it, it's in effect. But you know, we're a country not based on nationalizing our business. Call a person over in Venezuela, ask them how did nationalization of their businesses work out? Not too well. The concept of nationalizing our business is not a good concept, but I'll tell you why. As Peter said, we may have to use it someplace along the chain, but we're getting calls. Here's the beauty of it. If we go out and we want, let's say, masks, we don't know who to call on masks, but Hanes, who makes things of cotton, various elements, lots of things, it's a great company, they called us and they said, we're going to make millions of masks. We got a call today from 3M. There's a big article today, the head of 3M. They're going to make tremendous products, and they're more or less in that business. And if they're not, like for instance, General Motors spoke to us, Ford spoke to us about doing ventilators. The beauty is they're calling us. If you go the national route, nationalization route, we're going to tell a company to make a ventilator. They don't even know what a ventilator is. In the case of one company, they used to make them years ago, and they know how to make them. You know, it's a very complex piece of equipment, frankly. So what we're doing is, I think Peter said it maybe better than anybody's going to say it. We have the threat of doing it if we need it. We may have to use it somewhere along the supply chain in a minor way. But we have millions of masks being done. We have respirators. We have ventilators. We have a lot of things happening right now. So just the threat of using it. But using it's actually a big deal. I mean, when this was announced, it sent tremors through our business community and through our country. Because basically, what are you doing? You're talking about you're going to nationalize an industry, or you're going to nationalize, you're going to take away companies, you're going to tell companies what to do. The truth is, most people, nobody would know where to start. There are companies out there that you wouldn't think of that have called us that say, we can do ventilators, we used to do them years ago, and they can do them in large quantities. Other companies, if I call companies and say, you build ventilators, they don't even know what a ventilator is. So it's really working out very well. One of the reasons I read the numbers to you is because we've given vast numbers of just about everything. We've taken it out of our supply, and we're restocking our supply. But we're really backing up the governors. The governors have to go out and do their things, and you have a lot of governors, they've done a fantastic job. You have some that haven't. Usually it's the ones that complain that have the problems. But we've had a great relationship, as an example, with Governor Cuomo, with Governor Newsom. We've had a great relationship with the state of Washington. Those are three hotbeds. Now, we're also dealing with other states. As the Admiral said yesterday, we're dealing with all of the states, actually, in one form or another. Some are very affected in a very minor way, where you have 2 people or 3 people. And I don't even mean deaths, I mean literally cases. And that's different than New York, where you have, tremendous, where everybody, I lived there for a long time, everybody's extremely close, tight. And you have a lot of cases in New York. And we're helping Governor Cuomo. We're helping Governor Newsom. They've been total gentlemen. They want to get it done, and we want to get it done. But doing it the way we're doing it is much better. It's really much better.
But in terms of I'm talking about the supply chain. It's about allocation, not about manufacturing. So the companies, it's not about nationalizing the companies, it's about the allocation.
We coordinate with the states, and we are coordinated with the states. And for the most part, the coordination's been very good. Look, 3 days ago, I had a phone call with all the governors. I actually allowed the press to stay. They weren't supposed to stay. And one person in the media said, that was surprising. It's actually a little risky doing that, because we had Democrats and we had Republicans. And, they're politicians, and they always have something to say. Well, I took a lot of calls, and we really didn't get one nasty or bad response. They were thanking us for the job we did. And I had the press standing. I don't know if you were there. I don't think so. I had the press standing there watching. They weren't supposed to be there, but I said, let them stand there. The governors were very complimentary, very, very complimentary. And I watched over the last few days Governor Cuomo. I watched Gavin Newsom in California. I watched both of them, and they've been, very complimentary. And those are really the hotbeds. And so we want to keep that going. I'm very proud of this country, and I'm frankly very proud of a lot of the politicians that normally we're fighting with. We have different views on things, a little different view, but we're going to get to the same place. We have different views, but we're going to get to the same place. Yeah, please.
Yes, I wanted to ask if you're considering an executive order to free elderly, nonviolent criminals from federal prisons.
We have been asked about that, and we're going to take a look at it. It's a bit of a problem. But when we talk about totally nonviolent, we're talking about using totally nonviolent prisoners. We are actually looking at that, yes.
Thank you. And a quick I wanted to ask also, your administration eliminated a key position in China in July, a medical epidemiologist embedded in China's disease control agency, and it was just months before the first cases were spotted in Wuhan. So the question is basically why the post was eliminated. And
well, I could ask anybody, would you like to take that one, Bob? But this is just like all of the other stuff that that the press was asking, all of which turned out to be, we actually gave CDC more money, not less money. They said we defunded. It turned out it was more money. Every one of those things that were said were 100% wrong. And this sounds like another one of them, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, as you know, CDC has offices all around the world right now to do our function to detect and prevent and respond to outbreaks where they occur. The China office is actually being augmented as we speak, and we've been embedded there for over 30 years. There's a reason they call it the Chinese CDC, because we've had that productive partnership.
Mr. President.
And I wish, again, our relationship with China is a very good relationship. I wish they told us 3 months sooner that this was a problem. We didn't know about it. They knew about it, and they should have told us. We could have saved a lot of lives throughout the world. If you look at what's happening in Italy and Spain and a lot of other countries, we could have saved a lot of lives throughout the world. Kelly?
Mr. President, given the diagnosis for Senator Paul and people being self-quarantined, what concerns do you have about the direct threat to the function of the Senate, the ability to get this important package that people are waiting for passed? And should Americans be expecting you to extend the 15 days, given the climate of how this is spreading at this point?
Well, I hope we won't have to. It's possible, but we'll have to see how that works. As far as the Senate is concerned, we are looking at some of the folks are feeling very good. Some are quarantined, but they're negative. It may be totally fine. Okay. Others are positive. We're just finding this now for the first time. I mean, over the last 2 days, we found that.
Do you see it as a threat to the aid package that Americans are waiting for?
No, I don't see any threats at all. Honestly, I don't see any threats at all. It'll all work out. It is a question, and a very good question, I thought, that we are considering. Now, I don't know if you can do it constitutionally, but we are considering letting people vote, senators, congressmen and women, vote from a separate location, from a outside, namely a hospital or a home, depending on where they are. So we are looking at that. It's a little trickier question most people would believe, but we are looking at that very strongly.
Mr. President, speaking of the Senate, I think Kelly was kind of alluding to it. While we've been up here, they weren't able to get the 60 votes to move the package for the cloture vote. I'm just curious, just your reaction to that, sir. And then what is Mitch McConnell telling you and Secretary Mnuchin?
Well, we're dealing with them all the time, and we're dealing with Mitch. We're dealing with the other side. Everybody wants to get there. We'll see what happens. I think you'll get there. It's to me, it's not very complicated. We have to help the worker. We have to save the companies. Because as soon as we're finished with this war, it's not a battle, it's a war. As soon as we're finished with this war, our country is going to bounce back like you've never seen before. But we have to get it to that position, and we have to make sure that those companies are whole, that they haven't been disbanded. Because if you do that, it's going to take much longer. So in a way, it's being penny wise if you don't. But we want to help the worker. We want to help the companies that the workers come from. Because if those companies go out of business, and that includes small businesses, we have a tremendous amount of small business working there, you know that. Once they go out and they don't come back, that's a much longer period of building.
You mentioned off the top, sir, I apologize. There was a woman that was an American that was she being tortured? What was going on there?
Bad things were happening to her in a certain country, and we're really under the feeling that we should keep it somewhat private until she's already been freed. And I have to tell you, General Milley and his people were unbelievable. They were not playing games. General Milley does not play games. He's a very interesting guy. They got her out. They got her out of a certain country where she was seriously abused, accosted, and whatever the maximum word is, other than death, that happened. But we got her out. And she's okay, and she's back with her parents.
Can I ask you one last question, sir? It's something I've just been curious about. Previous crises like the tsunami, Katrina, past presidents, they've called their predecessors and said, hey, I need you to step in, do something like that. Do you have any interest in reaching out to Presidents Bush, Obama, Clinton, Carter, or talking to them? I'm just curious if that's something you would consider or not.
Look, I have the best people in the world. I think we're doing an extraordinary job. If you look in, let's say, the H1N1, you look at that was a disaster. That was a tough period of time for our country. You look at so many other things that weren't handled very well, whether it's Katrina or something else. Look, I respect everybody, but I feel I have an incredible team, and I think we're doing an incredible job. When you look at the job we're doing, and what you have to do is look at the approval numbers on the job we're doing. I think we're doing an incredible job. So I don't want to disturb them, bother them. I don't think I'm going to learn much. And, I guess you could say that there's probably a natural inclination not to call. Now, if I felt that if I called, I'd learn something, and that would save one life. It would save one life. Okay? I would make the call in 2 minutes, but I don't see that happening. Please.
Can I ask you about the comments that a couple of your former aides have said today? Gary Cohn said, is it time to start discussing the need for a date when the economy can turn back on? Whereas Steve Bannon is saying, drop the hammer to get on the virus. We're going to have to take the pain up front. We have to shut it all down. I want to ask about the tension between the economic pain and suffering and, of course, the virus itself and the casualty and deaths from that.
I'm of the opinion we have to do great during this 14 days, during the 15-day period. We'll know at the end of 14 days, pretty much, we're going to have a pretty good idea how we're doing. I think you have to shut it down and you have to see, but, there'll be a point at which we say, we're back in business, let's go. Those two statements are not mutually exclusive. You understand? I saw both of them today.
Well, I think
And they sort of intermesh.
for more of a shutdown.
Well, he's calling for a faster, just a brutal shutdown, and then open up maybe a little bit faster. So there's that fine line. Look, we did a big shutdown when we wouldn't allow people from China that could have been very seriously infected, that were, when we cut that off very early. And then we cut Europe off very early, as you know. So that was also very.
When do you start opening Main Street
Well,
back
I
up?
can't tell you that. What I have to say is that I think we're going to have good results. I think the American people have been amazing. I think our stimulus package will get done, and it will be a tremendous package. We're really not, they may not have gotten those votes, but they're very close to getting a deal done. So I'd be surprised if they didn't. And if they don't, I think, frankly, the American people will be very upset with the Democrats because the Republicans are ready to approve a deal. So the only reason a deal couldn't get done is pure politics. Yes, please.
Mr. President, despite your differences with New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, he says that the city is going to run out of basic hospital supplies by April. How do you prevent New York City from becoming the next Italy?
Well, he should have, the hospital systems in various places. Some have been stocked and ready to go for nothing for this. Nothing. This is beyond anything that anybody ever thought possible. I think you could really say this. Nobody can really, doctor, nobody can really say, oh, gee, this will happen. This is a very unique, and hopefully it will be unique for, many, many centuries, for a long time. Hopefully we don't see this again. But again, the systems are supposed to be ready, willing, and able. They're supposed to be ready to go. We are helping them a lot, and I have great love for New York City, and I have great love for New York State, and we're going to help them a lot. I was just saying, we're sending our ships up there. We're sending more than just this ship. We may be using, if we need, we'll be using some of the cruise ships that you've been reading about. We'll be using them also because they're very immediate and very quick. They can be there very quickly. We have good docking systems in the places that we're talking about. So we may be using some of the cruise liners that we're talking about. But no, I think Bill de Blasio is working very hard. I think he's trying very hard. It's a tough situation for him and every mayor because nobody's ever seen the scale. When you hear you've given millions of masks and you've given hundreds of thousands of masks in a certain short period of time, and then you hear they need many, many more. One of the things they have started with respect to masks is the sterilization process. Some are really, it works very well. Others aren't really set up that way. You throw them out. But we have a sterilization process that's working very hard. Speaking of that, hand sanitizers, when you asked the question on the companies and what's going on, we have many companies now. Companies that made whiskey, that made alcohol. They've now gone very quickly into the hand sanitizers and all of, you've been reading about 3 or 4 big companies. We're doing incredibly well on that. There was no way if you took the existing companies that something like that could happen. But it happens almost, they'll call Peter Navarro or they'll call somebody. In one case, they called me. They said, we can do this, we can do that. We've had a lot of those calls where companies there's a company in New Hampshire, a great company, they want to make ventilators. I never thought of them for ventilators, but they do make metal equipment and things out of metal. They'll be great. They'll make a great product. So, Peter, I think you're seeing a lot of that. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Mr. President, the bill that is being contemplated by the Senate right now has a fund that has hundreds of billions of dollars for the Treasury Department to use to bail out states and localities, as well as specific industries such as cruises and hotels. Will you commit publicly that none of that taxpayer money will go towards your own personal
Every
profit?
time I do it, like for instance, I committed publicly that I wouldn't take the $450,000 salary. It's a lot of money, whether you're rich or not.
Fox News Channel will continue our coverage of the Corona Task Force briefing from the White House, but for those of our Fox stations that are leaving us, stay tuned to Fox News Channel for continuing coverage. John Scott in New York. A Fox News alert, we are...
I commit to do something. I committed to do it. Look, I ran and everybody knew I was a rich person. I built a great company and people knew that, but I agreed to do things I didn't have to. I still don't have to. But my company, I told the kids who are running it, I'm not running it, but I told them don't deal with foreign companies, don't deal. I didn't have to do that. I could have just ran and I didn't have to do that at all. And instead of being thanked for, again, not agreeing to do it, but just for not doing it, I get excoriated all the time. So I've learned, let's just see what happens, because we have to save some of these great companies. There can be great companies literally in a matter of weeks. We have to save them. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can I go back to your announcement at the top about the National Guard and then also the medical structures that are going to be built? Okay, so you had said that there would be 8 large medical structures that will be built in California with more than 2,000 beds. And then I think I heard you say there would be 4 small medical structures in the state of Washington with 250 beds. And could you say what cities and areas those are going to be in specifically?
So we are filling the governor's request, and so we send that resource to them. They'll put it to best use. They'll put it to where they will have the most effect. So we don't dictate exactly where it goes. Again, it's a request from the state to the federal government for a certain asset, and those assets are sent to the governor can use it as he or she sees fit.
And you're still considering, you just said that using the cruise ships as well. So
we need them. I hope we don't need them. I hope you're going to have great luck on Tuesday morning. We sent a lot of the medicine. We don't have to go into it again, but we sent a lot of the medicine to Governor Cuomo. I believe they already have it. And they have some very capable people. We spoke to Dr. Zucker, who is his primary representative on this, and we spoke to the governor himself, and I think he's excited about it like I'm excited about it now. Will it work? I think it has a really good chance. I think it's worthwhile. Why should we be testing it in a test tube for 1.5 years when we have thousands of people that are very sick? They're very, very sick. And we can use it on those people and maybe make them better, and in some cases maybe save their lives. So Governor Cuomo told me they'll be using their supply, starting their supply on Tuesday morning. I think it's very exciting. I think because if that happens, much of what we're talking about with ships and hospitals and all of the things that we're doing and all of these masks and everything that we're ordering, ventilators, it's a whole different game if that happens. And we'll see. There's been some tremendous signs that this could work. Now, again, some doctors think it should go for years and testing, but, this has been something that's been around for many years. It's been phenomenal, strong, powerful drug for malaria. But we think it might work on this, based on evidence, based on very strong evidence. We're going to see, we're going to know on, sometime after Tuesday. But you'll have to ask Governor Cuomo. I think they're going to start the process. We've gotten them the drug. I think they're going to start the process of giving the drug mouth, through mouth. And I think that starts on Tuesday morning, he said. And that'll be, I'll tell you what, I don't want to get anybody overly excited, but I'm very excited by that, by the prospect of it. Then in addition to that, they're working, NIH is working on vaccines and all. They're making great progress, but the vaccine does have to be tested for a long period of time because you can't give, thousands, millions of people a vaccine and it turns out to be dangerous. So that does have to be tested. But this one's been taken for a long time, so we know pretty much one result. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask about China and President Xi. When was the last time you had a conversation with
I don't want to exactly say that, but I have spoken to President Xi about this, specifically about this. And look, he doesn't want this. This is not something that he wants, and it happened. It happened to China. And one thing they told me, I was told by our great Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, that China's been buying a lot of our farm product. And I'm looking at different pricing, but China has, despite all of this, and it started, this delayed it a little bit, obviously, but it started fairly recently. But China's buying, we made a new deal, as you know, with China, a very big trade deal, and China has been buying our agricultural product.
masks? I mean, they've been a supplier of the United States of masks. Of
Yes, in fact, they're sending some masks. They're sending masks to Italy. They are sending masks to Italy. We're in a very good process with masks. But I'm a little upset with China, I'll be honest with you, because as much as I like President Xi and as much as I respect the country and admire the country, I have great admiration for the country, what they've done in a short period of time. Of course, our previous presidents allowed that to happen. You should say thank you very much to all of them. But they should have told us about this. And I did ask them whether or not we could send some people in. They didn't want that. Out of pride, I think really out of pride. They don't want us sending people into China to help them. You know, China's a strong country. They have their scientists and they have their doctors, very smart, a lot of people. But I did discuss that about sending our people in, and they didn't really respond. We went again, they didn't respond. If they went in, they would have been able to give us a much earlier indication. But we had an early indication. That's why I closed out China. I mean, I felt it was my instinct, but that's why I closed out China at a very early time. Please.
Mr. President, are undocumented persons welcome at testing sites, and can they show up and be tested without fear of being reported to immigration officials for possible deportation?
It's really a fair question. I think I'll let. Would you like to answer that question? Please, please. Surgeon General.
We know from a public health perspective that it is important that people who have symptoms can get tested, but as you heard earlier, we are
regardless of citizenship.
Well, we know that the virus doesn't judge based on where you're from, and so it's important that we try to get people tested who have symptoms. But the important thing that we really want people to hear is that inpatients need to be tested. We need to prioritize our healthcare workers. And one thing I would like to say to you all very quickly, on behalf of the doctors on the task force, healthcare workers, we hear you. We hear you, and we absolutely are prioritizing your health and safety, making sure healthcare workers can get tested, inpatients can get tested, people at highest risk. But to answer your question, yes, we absolutely want to make sure people who have symptoms, who could be spreading it, can get tested.
Without fear. Sorry, question. Surgeon General.
Department of Homeland Security addressed that issue a few days ago. Customs and Border Protection actually issued guidance that absent certain circumstances, the Customs and Border Protection does not target emergency rooms or health clinics. And I would refer you to the website. They issued a very clear statement making it clear to any person that is in need of a test or medical care that Customs and Border Protection is not focusing on emergency rooms or health clinics or the drive-through clinics.
So that they could come in without fear of...
Yes, I'll answer that, and if that's not the policy, I'll make it the policy. And I was just saying, as Mike was saying that, the answer is yes, we will do those tests, because I think in that case it's important. I think that if you could say illegal alien, you could say illegal immigrant, you could say whatever you want to use your definition of what you're talking about. We're all talking about the same thing. Yes, we will test that person, because I think it's important that we test that person, and we don't want to send that person back into wherever we're going to be sending the person, whether it's another country or someplace else, because, we're now bringing them right out of our country. But yeah, we will test those people. Okay?
Mr. President,
Sorry, Mr. Surgeon General, a question for, we were talking about this before the briefing. You know, a lot of folks, they're watching TV, they're reading up on this constantly. If you are not, somebody who's got a pre-existing health condition, but you all of a sudden you go, all of a sudden I just don't feel 100%. And then your mind just starts playing with you, right? You think, oh my God, I coughed 3 hours ago. Was that a first sign? When should those people really start to say, okay, maybe I need to call the doctor? Because you don't want to flood them. But a lot of people that are probably healthy right now are thinking, whoa, wait, that's all I'm hearing about, that's all I can think about. When should I either call a doctor or get tested?
You need a test?
Well, I hope not.
Before you came in, I think you should check.
You better not.
The Vice President gave an important statistic this morning. Only 10% of the people who have symptoms who've been tested actually tested positive for coronavirus, meaning 9 out of 10 people who actually likely had symptoms do not have the coronavirus. So I want people to understand that so that they are reassured. I also want to direct people to a website we've been telling them about all the time, coronavirus.gov. Coronavirus.gov has information to walk you through the symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, body aches, and what to do if you have symptoms or you're worried. The most important thing we can tell people is call your healthcare provider, talk to your healthcare provider. Information is at coronavirus.gov to walk you through when to come in and when and what to do.
And Mr. Vice President, you got tested yesterday. I'm just curious, sir. Can you tell us what that was like for you? A lot of people are going to be going through this. What were you standing by the phone? Were you just having a nice tea? I mean, what did you? Yeah, what was that like? And what did you do to kind of kill that time to keep your mind at ease?
The test was very quick, but it goes a fair amount up into your sinuses, and it's not comfortable. And that's the reason it probably is a good opportunity to say again to any American looking on. If you don't have symptoms, you don't need a test. The current testing format, although they're evolving regularly now, we just mentioned that I think at the end of this week there'll be a new test, and there's all new technologies. I would say again to all the governors that are looking on and their state health officials, contact FEMA. We'll give you all the latest information on new testing that is available, including steps we're making where Americans will be able to test themselves and send it in.
For you, what was that like for you?
Well, for me and Mrs. Pence, it was kind of a pinch. It was kind of invasive, but we were grateful for the support. Walter Reed Hospital processed the test very quickly. They had a lab at the hospital to be able to do that. And gave us the results quickly. But it also informed me. We were wondering during that time as a family. And it's one of the reasons the President's made it such a priority that we brought all these commercial labs together. And now more than 250,000 tests have been done. We believe we'll be caught up, if you will, by the middle of this week on a backlog of tests. But we announced today that we are directing commercial labs to prioritize people who are in the hospital for tests, is we want to continue to work with new technology and with a new focus and guides from HHS to get the results of that as quickly as possible for every American. So if they have coronavirus, they can be properly treated, or they can have the peace of mind that they may have some other respiratory ailment, but not that.
Mr. President,